Hey there folks, how are you? Just a quick message to say that Operation Save the Film Talk is over and we have squeaked through past the finish line and we've got enough funds now to continue forward. So, of course, thank you to everybody who contributed and helped not just with money but with suggestions on how we could prosper and go forward. And I just have to tell you, we're never going to do this again. It was too fraught with drama. To people who heard episode 172, you can hear the strangeness because Gareth and I literally don't know during the recording of the show. We literally did not know if we were going to go forward. And the stress of this, the strangeness of this is a bit much because, of course, the show is not just film criticism, it's also the document, as Gareth said in 172, of 5 years of a developing friendship. And as I've said on the show before, as strange as this might seem, it's my own personal foible. I almost have no contact with people unless I'm working with them on a project. Very, very little contact. This is a pattern throughout my whole life. I got to work on it, I know. So if we weren't doing the film talk, I probably wouldn't have Gareth seriously very much in my life. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. So it was a very strange position to put ourselves in this mechanism where our friendship, seriously, our continued contact was based upon funding from a network of people around the globe. So we're never going to do that again. Going forward, either we're going to team up with somebody, get on a network like, kind of an NPR or satellite radio or TV or something like that to do the show, or we'll continue like we are, but we'll have to grow the listenership. Because the reason why we never paid ourselves, the reason why we don't actually make much money from the show is not because people don't want to give us money. They do. It's because the show is very, very niche. Not many people actually know the show exists. We're like the tiniest little indie band that has little fans, little groups of fans dotted all over the world. So Peru and Iceland and South Africa, etc. So what we need to do going forward, if we want to continue with the independent route, is grow the audience. And we're talking about things like SEO optimization, that's search engine, because if you type into Google right now, film podcast, you don't see us. You have to go through many pages to get to us. And to be frank, I know how good the show is. We should come up on that first page. When people talk, type in film or movie podcast, we should come right up there in that first page. So that's something for us to work on. I know there's a lot of web folks out there who listen to the show, so any suggestions would be very much appreciated on that front, because frankly there's an infinite amount of what we call content out there right now. And what's so interesting about the film talk for me at one level is how we're right in the middle of this reshaping of the media. There's this film we talked about on the show by Gerald Pirie, a film critic, called For the Love of Movies, the story of American film criticism. And when he started making the film, he interviewed all these film critics. By the time he finished, a couple years later, or maybe even 18 months later, everybody was laid off. Everybody but Roger Ebert and Harry Knowles. That's how bad things are. So the professional folks who, I mean professional in the sense that they work for a network and getting paid, they're laid off. Then you've got this infinite amount of people that are just blogging about movies, or they're doing podcasts. And that's more, those shows are less structured. They're more like, recordings of two video store clerks talking to each other. So there's an infinite amount of that. And you've got the film talk right here in the middle, in which we actually talk and discuss the meanings of films and really do some investigations. We're right in the middle of all this that's happening, the shifting of the landscape, the infinite amount of content, industries falling apart and reformulating, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I love the idea, now you tell me if this is just conceptually crazy, I love the idea of having our security being distributed around the world. So we're not dependent on one little, local economy, what have you. It's people all around the world listening. So we need to grow the base there. That's the space that we find ourselves in. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'll end just by saying thanks again to everybody. Gareth and I are so grateful, and frankly, I'm very, very humbled, because in my life I've always been very solitary. And if I allude back to the project thing, it's a way of distancing myself. I've been a very solitary person. Even though I've lived all over the world and traveled and met many people, I've been very solitary. And this experience of talking to and with people around the world talking about film has enriched my life greatly, because it's really a conversation. This is why we encourage listeners to, if they're in the area that Gareth and I are at, email us and we'll go have coffee. I was just with a listener today and went and saw the Furious Fasters, or whatever it's called, the 5 Furious Fasters, and et cetera, et cetera. I'll talk about it 173. Actually, it's pretty good for what it is. It's pretty good. But we had this conversation. Now we have the Film Talk forum at thefilmtalk.com/forum, and that's a great way for people to talk. And I'm always, every day, I'm always emailing back and forth with listeners who email me with questions and stuff like that. And that's just been a huge part of the show, kind of sub rosa behind the scenes. It's not actually here on the podcast, and it's enriched my life greatly. And I'm just so humbled by the response and by just the positive well wishes, not just the cash, but the positive well wishes from everybody. So thanks again to all of you. Again, email me with your address if you want, and what disc you want, if you want the Warner Archive Collection or the Filmmaker Magazine subscription or the Coyote Requiem photo. It's the least that we can do to say thank you so very much. And I hope you're having a blessed and a beautiful and productive, creative and loving day wherever you are. There's tough times out there for so many of us, but I think we're all in it together, and we'll get through everything. Okay, thanks guys.